So the Retroid Pocket Flip exists, and I've spent some time with it. I really had high expectations for this device, but I have found myself being disappointed by it. I bought it hoping that it would fulfill my clamshell needs while supporting some great power, at least enough to match the now out-of-date Retroid Pocket 3, but it doesn't really even do that in some ways. However, there are things that I really like about it, so this could be the device for you. But ultimately, I don't love it. So introducing the Retroid Pocket Flip. Let's dive right in. So the exterior design consists of plastic for the entirety of the build, but we are looking at a pretty decent build here. It looked cheaper when just looking at pictures online, but holding this in person, so this one caught me by surprise. Overall, the build is just better than I expected, and it's one of the things that I like about it, other than any other clamshell handheld that I had owned. So this one caught me by surprise. Overall, the build is just better than I expected, and it's one of the things that I like about it, to an extent. So on the front, you will find your screen and front-facing buttons. On the right, you will find a volume rocker. On the left, you will find a micro SD card slot. On the bottom, there is a sleep-wake button and a headphone jack. On the top, you will find your triggers, remappable M1 and M2 buttons, a USB-C port, and a micro HDMI port. On the back, you will find some cooling vents and the speakers. So the buttons are probably the best part about this that you will find on any clamshell so far, because they feel really solid and nice to press. The D-pad also feels really good, and it has plenty of travel without being mushy at all. They nailed both of these aspects. The shoulder buttons and triggers are really good too, but the analog sticks, they are interesting. They kind of remind me of the PSP thumbsticks, but they are more comfortable to use, have less resistance, and slide more smoothly. Sometimes they even feel more precise than your usual analog sticks because of the resistance offered by these. However, that's a double-edged sword, because pressing L3 and R3 is rather uncomfortable. The left stick just doesn't click down at all while it's being moved in any way, while the right stick does, but ever so slightly, you barely feel it. You hardly feel that feedback at all, which I think should be addressed. Also, the M1 and M2 buttons are not the easiest to reach, and they don't feel that great to press either because of how they just press down. The sleep wake button is far too recessed too to make it comfortable to press, because this device won't always wake when you open it. Most of the time it doesn't wake, which means that I have to power it on manually. The volume rocker is also far too deep in my opinion, and too small. So while the face buttons and triggers are great, the side buttons and bottom buttons, as well as the remappable buttons, kind of suck, to me at least. This device features a 4.7-inch 750 by 1334 IPS display that looks pretty decent. It's not the sharpest display out there, but it looks pretty okay. I don't mind it, and I think that the colors do this display a lot of favors. I'm perfectly fine with what they offered here, because you won't be playing games past 720p on this display anyway, at least with very old games. So with that said, I think this display is perfectly fine, and it's far from being one of the things that I dislike about it. In fact, I actually quite like it. Next are the speakers. These are just going to be okay. They are tinny, without a doubt, and the fact that they are rear firing makes them sound even tinnier. However, why not have a listen and judge for yourself? This device features a Unisoc Tiger T618 CPU, a Mali G52 GPU, 4GB of RAM, 128GB of eMMC storage with expandability, and a 5000 mAh battery. The specs seem pretty decent from the outset, but let's get into actual performance so that I can tell you why I don't love this device at the end of the day. Now let's go ahead and talk about the software. This does come with a front end that you can use if you want, but I prefer to stick with Android 11 front end, and it looks very stock, which is perfectly fine. It comes with the Play Store, which is great, as it means that you can download your apps without issues. You can sideload apps if you need to as well. Generally speaking, I do love Android, so I appreciate most aspects of it. Any device with Android is usually a good thing to me. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the actual gaming performance. So first, let's go ahead and talk about N64 performance. And what can I say? It ran Mario 64 very well. I can always expect a nice device like this one to accomplish a lot in this sector, so it's not like I was expecting it to do poorly by any means. So if you wanted a solid N64 machine, then this will easily easily run that N64 game while upscaled too. Strongly recommended for N64 and actually many of the older, lower end systems. We're going to talk about a few more of those, so do stay tuned for that. Next, let's talk about PlayStation 1 performance by playing some Valkyrie Profile using the DuckStation emulator. This game runs really well at an upscaled resolution and looks absolutely beautiful. I've already spoken about how amazing this game looks in general, and the fact that it's running like this at a higher resolution is really nice. This is a fantastic PlayStation 1 machine, as I'm sure you expected. There won't be any issues for any PlayStation 1 games if you were wondering. So yes, I can strongly recommend this as a PlayStation 1 machine, for sure. Dreamcast was another system that ran really nicely here. Using the Redream emulator, Sonic Adventure 2 ran exceptionally on this device, and that is no surprise. When it comes to lower end systems, this device will do really well, and as you've been able to see for the past couple of devices, it's not really a problem. PlayStation 1, N64, and Dreamcast will all run very nicely on the Retroid Pocket Flip. It's when it comes to the coming systems that we start to see some challenges. But just to be clear, Dreamcast is a dream on this device, and you will love it if you wanted a solid Dreamcast machine. So PSP is when this device starts to show some of its faults. It can run PSP pretty well at 2x resolution for the most part, using the PPSSPP emulator. However, God of War did have some decent stutters to worry about. It was kind of concerning because I'm not sure why, but it would look to me as if this device was throttling somehow, or maybe the CPU just really can't handle it very well. It was actually kind of puzzling because I remember seeing better performance from the original Retroid Pocket 3. Actually, scratch that, because I went back to the Retroid Pocket 3 and that could barely handle doing God of War at 1x resolution and frame skipping. Back when I reviewed this device, I remember it being much better than this. So did it just age really poorly over the course of now even an entire year? The Flip is performing better at 2x, so there is that, but this is still subpar compared to what something like the Anbernic RG505 offers, and they feature the same chipset. It just seems more stable on other devices, so I was not a fan of the PSP performance on this device. And the same will also be with PlayStation 2 performance using the Aether SX2 emulator. It's alright for the most part with something like the beginning sections of Kingdom Hearts 2 where not much is really going on, but it's okay. I think that a decent chunk of games will run okay at 1x resolution, but it is worth noting that this won't be that many games. So unfortunately, I wouldn't really count on this device to offer super stable PlayStation 2 performance. Unfortunately, it really only gets worse from here, as we will see with the next two systems. For me, most GameCube games just won't boot with the Dolphin MMJR2 emulator, so that was a system that I just straight up could not test on this device. I could not tell you why this is the case, but this is in fact the case for me. So I had to move on to Wii emulation on the same emulator, and while I could get Sonic Colors to run, it was not a pleasant experience, like at all. The game looked terrible, and I just cannot imagine really playing Wii on this device. It looks like it's running at a lower resolution than 1x while actually having a lot of frame issues on the Vulkan backend. So this was a very unpleasant surprise. The limitations of this device regarding performance and were just really puzzling more than anything, because the RG505 seems to be much better optimized for these emulators and to be able to play games without much tinkering. This is pretty sad to see. So battery life, at least, is pretty decent. So we should be looking at about 4 hours of battery life, but 3 is more common depending on what games you're playing. And you're definitely going to be playing lower end games for lower end systems, so yeah. And that's been my take on the Retroid Pocket Flip. The performance does not justify the price tag on this device at all, and I don't even think that it justifies really some of the design choices that they have made. The build is good, but the thumbsticks were somewhat of a puzzling decision. Same with the feelings of many of the other navigation buttons. Also, the hinge only goes into one position, which kind of sucks for adjusting this to your liking, for a clamshell like the 3DS. This device won't always wake when you open it, which is kind of weird, because on other clamshells they do wake immediately as soon as you open them, so that's just odd. I don't know what Retroid was thinking here with a lot of the decisions when it came to this device in particular, because I think that this as a clamshell is probably one of my least favorite options out there. Now, in terms of power, I will say that while it does do better than the Retroid Pocket 3, it should technically be as powerful as the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. I have found that really, for the most part, I don't know, there seem to be some optimization issues there that are keeping it from being able to play GameCube, or even run GameCube at all in my case, and for it to be able to run games like Sonic Colors on the Wii just okay. So I can only recommend this for lower end systems, but even then there are so many better options for lower end systems, such as the Retroid Pocket 3 for example, that I think that will just be a much better option at $120, and it will play all of those games maybe just as well as you would need them to be. It's a 720p screen either way. And you also have other devices that have shown more potential, such as the RG505, which I really like. I just wish that there was a metal version of it, really. But besides that, I think that other companies have already nailed this aspect better. So when it comes to the clamshell aspect, I would say stay on the lookout. I don't think that Retroid really offers the best solution right now. So keep your eyes open. But with that said, I will also keep my eyes open and hope for something better. Maybe Retroid will upgrade this and give us the performance that we need. Maybe make some changes to the analog sticks and some of the other features here. But yeah, for now, I can't really recommend this device. So with that said, I hope that my arguments made sense. Now, if you disagree with any of it, please let me know in the comments, as I would love to hear if maybe you've had different experiences, or if maybe there's just something wrong with my model. I'm definitely open to that. Maybe there's some tweaking that I could have done. I would love to hear from you in the comments, so please make sure to let me know. Also, if you are interested in getting any other retro handhelds that I would recommend instead, I will try to leave affiliate links, maybe to Ambernick or to Amazon, just depending on what I can find. If you were to use any of my links, you would be helping out the channel quite a bit, so I would appreciate that a lot. So links to that down below. You can also find me on Twitch, where I will be streaming more often, and you will find me on Instagram too. But with that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and until next time, enjoy.